Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that can totally transform your fundraising. We're moving past those generic dear friend emails and diving into how you can build real, lasting relationships with your donors. So let's just start with a question that I think we all wrestle with in the nonprofit world. Are your messages, your stories, your asks just getting lost in all the noise? I mean, there are so many amazing causes out there competing for attention. It's so easy for supporters to get donor fatigue. So, how do you actually stand out? How do you make a connection that feels genuine? Well, the answer is donor personalization. But what does that really mean? It's not just about slotting a first name into an email template. It's so much more than that. It's about tailoring everything you communicate to match what makes each donor tick, their unique interests, their values, what truly motivates them. The goal here is to create a meaningful connection that says, hey, we see you, we get why you care. And that leads us right into our first big idea today, moving beyond the generic ask. Look, this isn't just another fundraising gimmick or some new tactic to try. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about and build relationships with the people who make our work possible. And the results of this shift are pretty incredible. What's so compelling here is that this isn't just about warm fuzzies. It directly impacts the numbers that matter. We're talking about real, measurable growth. Just look at the boosts you can see in donor retention and engagement, and even in the average gift size. It's just clear-cut proof. When your donors feel seen and understood, their loyalty and their generosity, they grow right along with it. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Where do we start? That brings us to section 2, know your donors deeply. Because the foundation of any great personalization strategy isn't some fancy, expensive technology. It's a genuine, deep-down understanding of the people who support your cause. And that understanding is really built on 3 core principles. First up, we've got data-driven segmentation, which is just a way to group our donors logically. From there, we build donor personas to really get inside their heads and understand their motivations. And underpinning the whole thing is transparency and trust. We have to make sure our efforts always feel respectful and, frankly, welcome. Now, when we say data, let's not get intimidated. We're going way beyond simple demographics like age or zip code. The really important thing is what the data reveals about a person. We're talking about behavioral clues, like did they open that last email? We're looking at their donation patterns, their geographic context, and of course, what's their preferred way to hear from you? Email, social media, maybe even good old-fashioned mail. And this slide, this right here, perfectly illustrates the power of that data. You can move from these really generic, kind of useless labels like retirees or millennials to creating these insightful, motivation-based personas. So instead of a retiree, you have the strategic supporter, someone who probably wants to see detailed reports on impact. Instead of a young professional, maybe you have the social justice advocate, who's going to respond to messages about systemic change. You see, this changes everything about how you talk to them. But remember, all of this has to be built on a foundation of trust. Even a simple line like this one, "We're sharing this update because of your interest in our education programs," can make all the difference. It makes the personalization feel helpful and respectful, not creepy or intrusive. It just shows you're paying attention to what they actually care about. Okay, so now that we have a much deeper understanding of our donors, how do we put that knowledge into practice? Well, that brings us right to section 3, smart segmentation in action. This is all about how we group them to deliver messages that really, truly hit home. And this table gives us some fantastic, super actionable examples. Let's say you've got first-time donors. What do they want? They want to see their impact, right? So you send them an impact story and you do it right away. What about your loyal supporters, the ones who've been with you for years? They appreciate being recognized, so you send them milestone anniversary updates. And your major donors? They expect those detailed reports. See? Each segment gets exactly what it needs to feel valued. Segmentation itself is evolving. We're moving away from what's called static segmentation, which is based on fixed things like location, to dynamic segmentation. And this is where it gets really smart. Dynamic segments change in real time based on what a donor does, like if they attend an event or click a specific link in an email. This lets your outreach be immediately relevant to where they are on their journey with you. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds like a ton of work. And honestly, it can be. But that's where technology comes in. So for section 4, let's talk about the technology that connects. It is absolutely crucial to see these tools not as a way to automate relationships, but as a way to enable deeper human connections, but at scale. Here's a really simple but powerful example. In automated welcome series. So a new donation comes in. Instantly, a thank you email goes out. A couple of days later, an impact story follows. A week after that, maybe an invitation to follow you on social media. This simple workflow creates a really thoughtful, consistent, and welcoming experience for every single new donor without totally overwhelming your team. And then you've got AI, which takes things to a whole other level. I mean, imagine being able to predict the absolute best time of day to reach out to someone, or to get suggestions for tailored ask amounts based on their giving history, or even better, getting a heads up when a loyal donor might be at risk of lapsing. AI can provide these kinds of incredible insights that just make your outreach so much smarter and more proactive. But let's be crystal clear on this. I really want to drive this point home. The goal of all this tech is to amplify your ability to connect, not to replace it. These tools should be freeing you up to focus on what matters most, building those genuine relationships, not creating a digital wall between you and your supporters. So we've built the strategy, we've explored the tools, but how do we know if any of this is actually working? That, my friends, is the final piece of the puzzle. Section 5, measure what matters most. How do we actually track our success and prove this is worth the effort? Well, the first metric, and you could argue it's one of the most important, is your donor retention rate. Plain and simple. Are people sticking with you year after year? This is the ultimate test of donor loyalty, and it's a direct reflection of the strength of the relationships you're building. Next up, let's look at the average gift size. Are donors who get this personalized communication giving more? Well, the data says yes, they absolutely do. It just makes sense, right? When you align your ask with a donor's specific passions and their capacity to give, they're often inspired to contribute at a higher level. But of course, retention and gift size are only part of the story. To get the full picture, we also need to look at things like response rates to see if our messages are landing, the overall lifetime value, or LTV, of a donor, how often they're engaging with you beyond just giving, and that crucial metric, how long does it take to get that second gift? And all this measuring means that personalization is not a set it and forget it kind of strategy. Nope, it requires constant learning and tweaking. You should be doing regular reviews, at least quarterly and definitely annually, to dig into the data and refine your approach based on what's working and what's not. So, where do you begin? It can feel like a lot, I know, but here are your next steps. First, just audit your current donor data. See what you have and what you're missing. Then start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick one of your most engaged groups and test some new personalized approaches with them. Use technology to help you scale the things that work. And finally, commit to that regular review process to just keep getting better. You know, when it's all said and done, all of this work, all this strategy and technology, it all brings us back to one simple but really powerful idea. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Who is the person behind your next donation? Because by focusing on that, you're not just going to improve your fundraising numbers, you're going to build a true community. Thanks so much for joining me.